Pink Giant, a name that still leaves people asking the same question. Was this person a man or a woman? But whatever the answer is, one thing is certain. This was one of the most disturbing, brutal, and bizarre serial killers the world has ever seen. His crimes weren't driven by anger. They weren't driven by revenge. They were driven by something far darker, something almost impossible to understand. And what makes this story even more unsettling is how it ends. Because the fate of the Pink Giant is unlike anything you've ever heard in a serial killer story before. So get ready. This isn't just another crime story. This is the story of the Pink Giant. And once you hear it, you won't forget it. He was born in a small village in Germany, a quiet place called Linnen. On an October day in the mid-60s, a boy named Wolfgang Schmidt came into the world. For simplicity, everyone later called him Volk. From the outside, his family looked ordinary: a father, a mother, and a younger brother. But behind closed doors, the house was never calm. Arguments filled the rooms. Tension lived in every corner. And his mother? She was cold, especially with Volk. There was no affection, no warmth, no smiles meant for him. As a child, Volk kept searching for something simple: attention, any sign that his mother noticed he existed. But every time he reached out, he met silence and indifference. By the time Volk was 7 years old, something inside him began to shift. It wasn't something he understood, not desire in a clear sense. More like a strange sense of comfort mixed with fear, the kind a child can't explain. One day, alone in his mother's room, he noticed her personal belongings. Without really knowing why, he touched them. And in that moment, he felt something unfamiliar. Not excitement, not happiness, but relief. A calm he had never felt before. From then on, he repeated it, again and again, every chance he got, quietly, secretly. As time passed, this behavior stopped being occasional. It became obsessive. Eventually, his mother discovered him. She walked in unexpectedly and froze. Then came the screaming, the hitting, the harsh words no child should hear. But something unsettling happened. Volk didn't feel fear. Instead, deep inside, something twisted even further. For the first time, his mother was reacting to him, yelling at him, punishing him, acknowledging him. To Volk, even anger felt like attention. After that day, things didn't stop. They escalated. His mother tried to hide her belongings. She locked them away. She insulted him, shamed him, crushed him with words. Then she told his father. His father didn't ask questions. He didn't seek help. He chose punishment. What followed wasn't discipline. It was violence. No one thought about therapy. No one thought about treatment. In that household, problems weren't treated. They were beaten into silence. But silence didn't fix anything. Whatever was growing inside Volk didn't fade. It hardened. One day, while helping his father dump household trash in a nearby forest, Volk noticed something discarded among the waste. Items that instantly pulled him back into that same dark comfort. That night, he returned alone. From that point on, the behavior followed him like an addiction. And like any addiction left untreated, it demanded more. What once gave him comfort no longer felt enough. His thoughts began to shift again. And this time, they were darker than before. Then, just before Volk turned 18, his father left. He walked out of the house and never came back. And with that, whatever fragile structure still existed in Volk's life collapsed completely. He started drinking, constantly, locking himself in his room, living inside his own distorted world. Yet outside, no one suspected a thing. Neighbors described him as quiet, polite, shy, even kind. No one saw what was building beneath the surface. After finishing school in the mid-'80s, Volk joined riot police. Around the same time, he met a young woman. He fell in love, or at least what he believed love was. She had no idea who he really was. To everyone else, Volk looked normal, a regular man with a steady path. But that balance didn't last. By the late 80s, everything unraveled. Alcohol, extreme ideas, uncontrolled thoughts. One day he said too much, the wrong words in the wrong place. And just like that, he was fired. Losing that job broke something inside him. He tried to rebuild, found factory work, tried to move forward, but the urges never left. Then came a morning in late October. On his way to work, riding his bike as usual, something snapped again. A sudden urge, a familiar pull. He noticed a small house along the road, and decided to stop. That decision changed everything, because inside that house, he would meet a woman whose life was about to intersect with his in the worst possible way. And this time, there would be no turning back. When Volk saw her, she was standing in her garden, calmly watering her flowers. An ordinary moment, a peaceful scene. And yet, something inside him snapped. He later described it as a sudden surge, a need, not just to approach her, but to control her. Without hesitation, Volk moved closer to the house. He grabbed what was nearby, a hammer, a rope. It all happened in the garden. The woman sensed danger and fought back. She screamed. She grabbed a tool and swung it, desperate, hoping someone would hear her. But no one did. Before help could arrive, Volk struck her. The hammer hit her head. She collapsed, unconscious. Then he used the rope. He didn't stop until she was gone. What came next crossed a line that can't be undone. Afterward, Volk went upstairs. He searched through her bedroom, tearing through drawers, ignoring valuables, focused on one thing only. He took what he wanted. Then he wrapped her body in a blanket, planning to disappear into the forest and bury what he'd done. But fate intervened. People passing by noticed him. A man carrying a bulky, unnatural shape wrapped in fabric. They shouted, demanded answers. Volk panicked. He dropped the body and ran. This was his first murder. Did he feel guilt? No. What he felt was something new, a rush unlike anything he'd ever experienced. What's terrifying, he hadn't even planned to kill her. That morning, his intention was simple: steal, leave, go to work. But the moment she appeared, the darkness took over. The experience was overwhelming, intoxicating, and now he wanted more. Police arrived to a chaotic scene. Blood everywhere, furniture overturned, drawers ripped open. At first, they suspected a robbery gone wrong, but something didn't add up. Valuables were untouched. Nothing was missing except very specific items. The autopsy revealed the truth. Her skull was severely damaged. This wasn't panic. This wasn't self-defense. This was intentional. Worse still, the evidence showed she had been violated after death. That changed everything. Police realized they weren't dealing with a thief. They were dealing with someone dangerous. Witnesses described a tall, blonde man with an athletic build. In the forest nearby, investigators found a footprint, a military boot. That detail raised alarms, because it meant one thing: the killer might be one of them. Police tried to trace the boot through equipment records, but the system was in chaos at the time. Records were incomplete, corrupted. The trail went cold, but the damage didn't end there. The woman's husband was destroyed by grief. Within a year, he took his own life. Meanwhile, Volk felt empowered, in control, and now convinced. This was who he truly was. Months later, riding his bike to meet friends, he saw a sign pointing toward a landfill. The urge returned. He stopped. He searched, and he found what he was looking for. But this time, he wasn't alone. A woman spotted him. Her name was Krista. She lived nearby in a caravan close to the site. She shouted at him, demanded to know what he was doing. For Volk, the shame was unbearable. Being seen, being exposed. Fear turned into rage. He ran at her. She screamed and tried to escape. For a moment, she broke free, but Volk chased her. He grabbed a wire, closed the distance, and ended her life. This time, he was more careful, more focused. He moved her into the forest, and once again, crossed that irreversible line. Afterward, alone with his thoughts, Volk realized something. The first two murders hadn't been planned. They were impulsive. That would change. From that moment on, Volk decided to hunt, to stalk, to choose his victims deliberately. Age didn't matter. Appearance didn't matter. If she was a woman, that was enough. And what he was about to do next would prove just how far he was willing to go. From that point on, Volk made a decision. Anyone in the wrong place, at the wrong time, was already lost. This time, he wanted control. No impulse, no mistakes. On a summer day in 1990, Volk left his house fully prepared. He wore clothes meant to hide him. He carried a knife, binoculars, even a waterproof coat, chosen for one reason only. He didn't want blood on his real clothes. He headed toward the landfill, following the same routine that had fueled his urges before. But this time, he wasn't just searching, he was hunting. That's when he saw her, a woman in her late 50s walking alone. To Volk, she wasn't a person, she was an opportunity. Without hesitation, he moved in fast, pulled the knife, and attacked. She screamed. He dragged her toward the forest, planning to finish what he started. But fate intervened again. Two people nearby heard her cries. They ran toward the sound. Volk saw them coming, and for the first time in a long while, he ran. He disappeared into the trees, leaving the woman badly injured but alive. She survived. When police questioned her later, she couldn't give a clear description. Her memory was fragmented. Trauma had taken its toll. Volk, convinced he would be caught, vanished. For 8 months, there was nothing. No sightings, no incidents. But fear didn't change him. It only sharpened him. Then it happened again. A woman named Anya Fisher was walking alone through the forest. She never saw him coming. He stabbed her from behind. She collapsed, unconscious. This time, he didn't finish it there. He dragged her deeper into the woods, to a place he had already chosen. And there, he ended her life. What followed showed just how far his mind had fallen. 8 days later, police found her body. This time, the pattern was undeniable. The similarities were too clear. The same signs, the same objects. Investigators finally said the words out loud. They were dealing with a serial killer. At the scene, police found magazines, catalogs, and women's clothing, items that clearly belonged to the attacker. Still, they kept the case quiet. They didn't want to cause panic. Instead, they distributed warnings, advising people not to walk alone at night, especially women. But not everyone received the message. One family never did. A Russian family, isolated by language and distance, and tragedy found them next. A woman named Tamara was walking through the forest, heading home, with her infant child. Volk attacked without hesitation. What happened next confirmed one horrifying truth. There was no mercy left in him. By the time police arrived the next day, it was clear. This was the same killer. The media finally stepped in. The public learned there was a predator among them. Police gave him a name, the Pink Giant, a reference to his size and the disturbing evidence left behind. A reward was offered. Dozens of officers were assigned. Leads chased, forests searched, still nothing. Volk continued his life as if nothing had happened, going to work, seeing his fiancée, blending in. Two faces, one man. And while investigators were lost, searching blindly through the woods, they stumbled upon something new, hidden among the trees, evidence that would finally begin to unravel the truth, and that discovery would bring them closer than they ever realized. By now, Volk could feel it. The walls were closing in. Police were getting closer. Evidence was stacking up, but it didn't matter anymore. He was addicted, not just to killing, but to everything that came with it. 2 weeks after the attack on Tamara, Volk returned to the forest, fully dressed in his ritual, a rainproof coat to keep blood off his clothes, and underneath it, women's undergarments, hidden, waiting. He moved like a predator, standing still behind trees, holding his breath, watching. That day, he spotted 2 girls, 12 years old. For most people, that would have been a line that could never be crossed. For Volk, it was an opportunity. He attacked suddenly. One girl was stabbed. The other managed to break free and run. That escape saved both their lives. Police flooded the area. The girls described what they had seen. For the first time, investigators had a face. A sketch was released to the public. Front page news. The reward was increased. 6,000 marks. Everyone saw the drawing. Everyone, except him. Because Volk didn't stop. In the spring of 1991, he broke into the home of a woman in her 60s. She was asleep, drugged by medication. She never woke up. The scene told investigators everything they needed to know. The same patterns, the same obsession. By now, fear had paralyzed the town. Children stopped going to school. Women stopped walking alone. Doors stayed locked. Streets went silent. And Folk loved it. He read the newspapers every day, saw his nickname printed in bold letters, the Pink Giant. He felt powerful, untouchable. Police tried everything. Random searches, hidden officers in the forest, traps. Nothing worked. Until one morning in August, a man named Mike was jogging through the woods, as he always did. That's when he saw it. A tent, hidden deep among the trees. Around it, women's undergarments everywhere. Too many to ignore. Mike knew exactly what he was looking at. Fear told him to run. Instinct told him to act. He left quietly, returned with a friend. Together, they approached the tent. Inside, they saw him. Tall, wearing women's undergarments, pink shoes on his feet. There was no doubt. This was him. Mike kept his voice calm, lied smoothly, told Volk he was from the Forestry Service, said camping there was illegal. Volk believed him. He got into their car. Minutes later, they pulled into a police station. Just like that. The nightmare ended. After years of fear, the Pink Giant was finally in custody. Now, investigators wanted answers, and what Volk would say next would reveal just how deep the darkness truly went. During interrogation, Volk didn't look like a monster. He was quiet, nervous, avoiding eye contact. It was hard to believe this man was the Pink Giant. But once the questions began, everything changed. Volk confessed to everything. He spoke calmly, without emotion, explaining each crime in detail, as if he were describing something ordinary. There was no regret, no hesitation. What bothered him wasn't the crimes themselves. It was the way the investigators talked about him, their questions, their tone, their judgment. He felt embarrassed, exposed. On an October day in the early 90s, Volk stood trial. He was in his mid-20s. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, families of the victims, people who had lived in fear for years. Everyone wanted to see him. Then something unexpected happened. Volk denied everything. He rejected his own confession, claimed the victims were still alive, insisted none of it was real. A psychiatrist was brought in. The evaluation was clear. Volk was deeply disturbed, suffering from severe psychological disorders. His statements contradicted his actions. His words didn't align with reality. The court ruled that he was not fully responsible for his crimes. The sentence shocked many. 15 years. Not in prison, but in a psychiatric facility. Inside the hospital, reports described him as calm, polite, well-behaved. He caused no trouble, yet the darkness never truly left. Years later, Volk admitted he still felt the urges, still believed he was dangerous, still believed he should never be released. Then came another transformation. He began identifying as female, underwent hormone treatment, changed his name. But the past didn't disappear. In the following years, Volk returned to headlines for another crime committed inside the facility, a reminder that the threat had never truly ended. To this day, he remains confined. And perhaps that's where this story truly ends. Not with justice, not with closure, but with a question that still lingers. Was he born this way? Or was he shaped by neglect, violence, and silence? Because sometimes, the most terrifying monsters aren't created overnight. They are built slowly, in broken homes, ignored cries, and doors that were never opened in time. And once they emerge, there is no undoing what follows.